Hello everyone, and welcome to Yarns of Yore. This is a podcast where I, your host, Alec, tell you tales of fantasy and adventure that range more on the comedic side and hopes to hopefully make you laugh. The stories are written by yours truly, and I do them whenever I feel like it, pretty much, just whenever I have inspiration. It's kind of an off and on thing, and I just write them for fun, and I do this podcast for fun. So, now that the introduction is out of the way, why don't we jump right into it? In the land of Shad, on a large hill, there lay a small, abandoned castle. But this wasn't any other abandoned castle. It wasn't haunted, cursed, or even the hiding place for an evil wizard or something. This abandoned castle was actually the home to 3 young adventurers. They were Cuillin the knight, Vito the wizard, and Gilther the dwarf. These 3 had been on an adventuring together for about a year now, and they were already the best and heartiest of friends. They loved the thrill of questing and discovery, as well as helping people with their problems. There was the time they kicked those skeletons out of Pickwick for throwing loud and wild rave parties every night. There was the time they defeated the Spider Queen and stopped her reign of terror. There was even the time they helped Old Man Johnson fix his plumbing. It was clogged by a slime monster. The guys were enjoying an afternoon off. Just because they like their job doesn't mean they don't need a break every once in a while. They were sitting around in the castle living room, which was littered with cans of soda and pizza boxes. Cuillin was playing a video game on his phone. Gilther was playing a tune on his axdolin, a cross between an axe and a mandolin. Vito was reading a book that was just titled Butts. Suddenly, there was a knock at the castle door. The guys looked up from what they were doing. "Hey, Gilther, could you get that?" asked Cuillin. "I'm in the middle of a boss fight, and it's one of those games you can't pause." "Sure thing, Cuillin," said Gilther. He set his axdolin down and headed for the door. He stood on a box to look through the peephole. In front of the door was a figure in a black cloak with a hood that covered their face. Gilther furrowed his brow. He stepped off the box and cracked the door open, peering behind it. "Can we help you?" The cloaked figure just let out a raspy moan, holding out an envelope. Gilther took it. Then the cloaked figure disappeared in a puff of smoke. Gilther closed the door and locked it. He walked back to the living room, envelope in hand. "Who was it?" asked Vito. "Some creepy person who gave me this letter," said Gilther, holding up the envelope. "It seems to be addressed to us." "Open it, then," said Cuillin. Gilther took out a letter opener and opened the envelope, taking out the letter inside. Cuillin and Vito came up alongside him, looking at it. Gilther read it aloud. "Dear foolish heroes, I, the evil wizard Farod, have kidnapped your friend, Princess Marcy. As we speak, she is being kept in my dungeon, forced to eat nothing but pickles. I will release her as long as the King of Valentano gives me 1 bajillion gold pieces. Don't bother trying to save her, because you'll just die. From Farod. P.S. You smell like butts." "By the gods!" Cuillin exclaimed. "Princess Marcy has been kidnapped." "Well then, there's no time to lose," said Gilther. "Let's go, men." "Adventure!" said the guys in unison as trumpets blared. After a screen wipe, Cuillin, Vito, and Gilther arrived outside Farod's evil fortress. The sky was cloudy and dreary, with wyverns circling around the fortress like vultures. Around the fortress was a moat of black water, with tentacles and eyeballs occasionally poking out from the surface. Also, the moon looked like a skull for some reason. The three adventurers watched from behind a hill, plotting their next move. "That looks pretty fortified," said Vito. "I concur," said Kyler. "A direct approach would most likely end in failure. We'll have to find another way in." "Why not try the sewers?" suggested Gilther, pointing to a manhole that was out in the middle of the field. Kyler opened the manhole cover, while Gilther and Vito went down underground. Kyler followed after them, closing the manhole cover behind him. Vito cast a light spell to illuminate the way. The smell of sewage and trash filled the air. Rats skittered along the ground. It was pretty gross. The three walked through the sewers until they came upon a thin, lanky, creepy little creature with giant, bulging eyes. It looked like a cross between a goblin and someone who had done every single drug to ever exist ever. The creature noticed them and scrambled up to them.
"Ah, visitors," said the creature in a raspy voice. "Grimble never gets visitors."
"What manner of creature are you?" asked Kyler, putting a hand on his sword.
Grimble is what Grimble is," said Grimble. "Have you come to give Grimble a gift? Or perhaps a story?"
"Actually, we're here to save Princess Marcy from the evil clutches of Farod," said Kyler.
"Farod?" asked Grimble. "Ooh, Grimble knows Farod. Perhaps for a present, Grimble can take you to him."
"This sounds like a trap," said Vito.
"I say we cleave him in twain," said Gilther, taking out his axtolin. "Nyah, no hurt, Grimble," exclaimed Grimble, shielding himself with his arms. "Grimble bruises easy."
"Hold on, comrades," said Kyler, holding out his hand to Vito and Gilther. He looked back at Grimble. "Tell me, Grimble, what do you like?"
"Books," Grimble said. "Grimble likes books. Books with pictures in them, for Grimble cannot read."
"Books, eh?" said Kyler. "Well, my friend Vito has lots of books. Vito, give him a book." "I don't know about this, Kyler," said Vito. "This still seems sketchy." "Look at him, Vito," said Kyler. "How can you distrust that face?" Vito looked at Grimble's face. The creature grinned, his mouth filled with sharp, jagged teeth. He also blinked his eyes one at a time. Then he farted. "Well, I guess I can't argue with that," Vito mused. He reached into his satchel and drew a book titled Sexy Thick Butts That Will Make Your Head Explode. Grimble cackled and grabbed the book greedily, jumping up and clicking his heels. He then opened the book, skimming through it. Then his head exploded. "Vito!" exclaimed Kyler. "What?" said Vito. Kyler just rolled his eyes, walking forward. "Let's keep going." Meanwhile, inside the fortress, two hobgoblin guards were playing a game of non-specific cards. One hobgoblin looked up from his cards. "I'll be right back," he said. He picked up a newspaper and walked out the room. He walked down a corridor, took a left, and walked into a bathroom. He lifted the toilet lid. Looking up at him was Kyler, Vito, and Gilther. "Hey," he said, "you're not supposed to be here." Kyler stabbed the hobgoblin with his sword, killing him. The three climbed out of the toilet. "Whew, that was close," Vito whispered.
"Yeah," said Gilther. "We almost got crapped on by a hobgoblin."
"No time to waste, men," said Kyler. "We gotta find the princess." "Farod said she's in the dungeon," said Vito. "Let's go." Gilther sat the dead hobgoblin on the toilet, and the three tiptoed out of the fortress proper, closing and locking the door behind them. As they sneaked around, Vito cast a map spell, creating a three-dimensional holographic map of the fortress. "Okay, the dungeon is on the lowest level of the fortress," said Vito. "It'll probably be extra fortified," said Kyler. "We'll have to be careful not to tip everyone off to the fact we're here."
"Oh, I have an idea," said Gilther, pulling out his axtolin. "I'll play a stealthy song to help us sneak around the place."
He cleared his throat and started whisper singing.
"Stealthy, we're so stealthy. You can't even see us because we're like ninjas. We're swift like the wind and quiet like a fox. And just when you think you found us, we'll kick you in the crotch."
Gilther kicked a hobgoblin that was passing by in the crotch. He passed out. Good work, Gilther, said Cuillin with a thumbs up. After some more sneaking around, the three finally found the dungeon. Standing in front was a large cyclops with a maul and wearing a horned helmet. Otherwise, he just had a dirty brown loincloth on. The cyclops saw the adventurers, clutching his maul.
"Halt," he said. "Who dare enter the fortress of the mighty, powerful, and sexy as heck Farod the evil wizard?"
We do, said Cuillin. We've come to save the princess.
"I am Ballarg the jailer," said the cyclops. "I am Farod's most loyal servant, and I will never allow you to enter the dungeon and save the princess therein."
Huh, said Cuillin. You couldn't possibly take us all on. There's 3 of us, and 1 of you. The action economy is stacked against you.
"Action economy?" asked Ballarg. "What the capital H are you talking about? This isn't some tabletop game where we take turns taking actions. Now shut up and fight."
Cuillin and Gilther started hacking at Ballarg's legs, while Vito just spammed magic missiles at him.
"Hey, I wasn't ready," exclaimed Ballarg. "Time out! Time out!"
Vito summoned a giant fist that punched Ballarg in the face. Gilther chopped off the Cyclops' right pinky toe. Cuillin climbed on top of the Cyclops and stabbed him repeatedly in the eye.
"Ugh, my eye!"
said Ballarg. He ran around blindly, slipped on a banana peel, and got knocked unconscious. Cuillin leaned in closely to Ballarg's ear and whispered, "Action economy, baby." The 3 took Ballarg's keyring and used it to open the dungeon door. The dungeon was one room with hay on the ground and a bucket in the corner. In the other corner was an old mattress, and laying on the old mattress was Princess Marcy in a sheer, tattered nightgown. She woke up and saw the 3 adventurers, her eyes lighting up when she saw them. "Worry not, Princess," said Cuillin. "We've arrived." "KV&G!" exclaimed Princess Marcy joyfully, running up to them and grabbing them all in a big hug. "I knew you'd come for me. I just knew you would." "No time for hugs, babe," said Vito. "We've got to get you out of here." Just then, a cacophony of heavy footsteps could be heard coming closer. Princess Marcy looked at the guys meaningfully. "Hurry, close the door," she said. The 3 went inside the dungeon and closed the door behind them. She moved the mattress to reveal a large hole. "I found this secret tunnel made by another princess that I got kidnapped and brought here. I didn't use it because I didn't want to venture alone, but now I have you guys to protect me."
All right, let's get going," said Gilther. "Cannonball!"
He ran up to the hole and jumped down it while curled up in a ball. Cuillin, Vito, and Marcy followed after him. Vito cast a slow fall spell on everyone so they didn't break their pelvises. The 4 landed softly on the ground, finding themselves in a large system of caverns. "Vito, can you cast a map spell again to show us the way out?" asked Cuillin. "Can do," said Vito. A holographic map appeared again, and they started following it out of the caverns. They walked for about 15 minutes until they came upon a huge circular chamber. On the other side of the chamber was an arched threshold leading to a set of stone stairs. "That must be the way out," said Cuillin. Just then, a great green pillar of flame appeared in the center of the chamber. Emerging out of it was a tall, charred skeleton warrior in rusted black armor and covered in an aura of green fire. He also had horns and a black crown upon his head. He drew a wicked-looking longsword, also covered in green fire, and spoke.
"I am Gelthrax, the Dread Knight," said the skeleton warrior. "I hail from the lowest, most accursed part of the abyss." "Stand aside, lad," said Gilther. "The last time someone took us on 3-on-1, they didn't end up so well."
"Yep," said Vito. "Action economy."
"I'll make this simple," said Gelthrax. "Hand over the princess, and you will be left alive. You do not want what you are asking for."
"Never," said Cuillin.
"Then you will perish," said Gelthrax.
Cuillin, Gilther, and Vito charged toward the Dread Knight. Cuillin jumped up with his sword high over his head and brought it down. Gelthrax blocked it. Gilther swung his axtolin for Gelthrax's side, but he just held out his hand and blasted Gilther with green flame, knocking him back. Vito shot like 50 magic missiles at Gelthrax. Gelthrax deflected each one with his sword. Gelthrax backhanded Kyler and Gilther away, sending them flying backward. Then he took his sword and sliced the very air itself, cutting open the fabric of reality. Monsters and horrors from the realms beyond started pouring out into the chamber. Kyler and Gilther got up, brandishing their weapons. The monsters charged them, Kyler and Gilther cleaving their way through them 3 by 3. Vito shot a giant laser beam spell in to thin their numbers, but more just kept coming.
"There's too many of them!" exclaimed Gilther.
"Vito," said Kyler, "the book." "The book?" asked Vito. "Oh, right, the book." Vito pulled out his copy of Sexy Thick Butts That Will Make Your Head Explode and threw it at Gelthrax. It landed on his face.
"Ah, what's this?" exclaimed Gelthrax. "Butts? No, it's too sexy!"
The book turned to ash and poured into Gelthrax's eye holes, literally filling his skull with images of ridiculously juicy donks. Gelthrax's head started to shake and rumble until it exploded in a giant green mushroom cloud, the shock of which rippled throughout the chamber and incinerated every one of the horrors from the realms beyond. The dust cleared. All was quiet. Kyler, Vito, Gilther, and Marcy blinked. "Whoa," said Vito. The end. Well, that concludes today's story. If you laughed a little bit, I'm happy. If not, well, that's a shame. I'll be uploading more videos in the future, hopefully, just whenever I can. There's no real set schedule for when I do this, but, it's just kind of whenever I want to sort of thing. But anyway, thank you for watching. If you liked it, please leave a like and maybe even a comment if you want to. Just if you want to, there's no pressure. And I will see you again someday soon. Goodbye.